What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And today, we're back with another treasure map preparation video. And I do want to say that this is looking like a little bit of an easier treasure map compared to the last couple that we've had. Yeah, this one actually looks a lot more laid back, a little bit more chill, so I think that many people out there are going to have a much easier time taking on this event. So, before we jump into all the accessible teams though, I want to talk about the new Akainu character that we'll get access to in this event. Akainu is Dex driven powerhouse, captain ability, 4 times attack to driven, 1.3 HP, Dex and size slots are beneficial, and also reducing 2 turns of despair. Honestly, like, it's okay. You know, if you're going to use it for random content, if you're new to the game and you don't have a good driven captain, definitely reasonable. And then the special ability, 70 times his attack and dex damage to a single target, so damage dealing special is always good. He applies ignited status to all enemies for 1 turn, and then reduces despair and burn by 6. It's very good. And if the captain is a driven class, he boosts damage dealt to ignited enemies by 2.25, so a 2.25 conditional boost versus the ignited characters, which he can ignite them, which is cool. And then it says if you don't have a driven captain, you still get a 1.75 times conditional instead. Honestly, not a bad unit. I don't think he's going to see like tons and tons of play, but it's just a generically good unit. He gives them some base attack, makes dex and size slots for driven. That's actually really good. And for his potential abilities, I don't know why, they keep giving characters this limit special uses resistance, as well as pinch healing, and also provoked attack. Unfortunately, no real usable support, and his rumble kit is kind of also whatever, dex, HP, and attack buff, and then a special that gives some crit and also does a 2 times or 2 targets are fit with 1.7 damage, and it's kind of whatever. No one really cares about these free-to-play rumbles, but I think that this unit is honestly not too bad. Not a bad unit. So now we get to move on to the Battle Rush bosses, first of which is going to be against Coby. Coby himself will go ahead and inflict special reverse to only the crewmates for 1 turn, and then inflicts 8 turns of despair, 8 turns of bind, and the bind is only for the crewmates, by the way, so the captain is avoiding that. So you want to make sure that you have a captain that can actually remove that bind, which is what Adio is doing here. There's also 3 turns of attack down based on your chain, so you need to exceed 2.25, and there's also delay immunity, so any conditional boost that is not a delay will actually work here, and when you actually defeat the boss, 50,000 damage is inflicted to the crew. So actually, this is not a terrible boss, because the free-to-play Adio and free-to-play Lim basically deal with everything here. Ideally use Adio as the captain, so you can use his special to remove the bind, and then you can use the Lim special to deal with special reverse and deal with the despair, and of course we have to deal with the chain, which of course Adio and Lim will deal with very comfortably. And then you just run the rest of the characters for damage. With Adio and Lim, you'll get majority of your crew slots will be matching, and then you can just try and secure damage in other methods. So we have Ace and Luffy on the team, a free-to-play unit that gives an attack buff and a color affinity buff to shooters and free spirits, and also fighter characters, I believe. So it actually works pretty much for the whole team. It's just a pretty easy team to build. The second Battle Rush boss versus Garp. This is a pretty interesting team for sure. Definitely not the most optimal way to go around it. But versus Garp, he gives cooldown to Slashes, Powerhouse, and Cerebral. There's going to be 10 turns of paralysis, and there's also going to be an attack down based on your chain. So your chain has to be between 3.25 and 4.75, so it's oddly specific. And also, you'll get a full board of block slots, so you want to try and find a way around that. And you'll also get a delay immunity, and there is an interrupt. If you use any orb boost, they remove your beneficial effect, and they will go ahead and stun your bottom row. And remember that when you are stunned, you do take increased damage from the opponent. In this case here, when you're stunned, you're going to take double damage. So the way around this is by using Lin as the captain. Now, remember, when you have Lin, which is a free-to-play unit technically, by the way, her captain ability states that if every type is on the crew, and the crew is inflicted with paralysis, it halves the paralysis duration, ignoring the decimal, and reduces the character's special charge time based on the number of turns halved. Now, I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work if you end up using double Lin. I'm not 100% sure if it means if you have double Lin and 10 turns of paralysis, and then both Lin remove 5 turns each, or if it only affects one Lin. I'm not 100% sure how it actually is going to work. Despite all that, we do have Kawamatsu on the crew, who can also remove additional turns of paralysis for us, is good. Cracker can change block slots as well, and the big thing obviously is the switch effect of Big Mom, because her switch effect is so strong, being able to remove further turns of paralysis, which I guess that kind of solves that issue either way, but it also gives you a 2x attack and a 2x orb boost for the crew. And of course, Big Mom's special will give you the chain lock that will be within the boundary of 3.25 and 4.75, allowing you to just straight up kill Garp. So that's not really going to be a big issue. So long as you have one of every type, Big Mom basically carries this fight. The next Battle Rush boss is versus Borsalino, otherwise known as Kizaru, giving cooldown to Slashes, Free Spirits, and Powerhouse. And the ideal units to use here is Legend Zora. He is the most ideal unit, and that is what I would advise with this specific team here. You'd want to use the new Zora as the friend captain. His level 2 captain will change the recovery slots that's inflicted to the crew into Wano. Now you do see there's 12 turns of despair, so with Hiyori special here we can actually get a full board of Wano slots either way, but it also removes 7 turns of despair. With the YT base support we can remove an additional 2 turns of despair, totaling for 9, and then the sockets deal with an additional 3, totaling to 12 turns of despair, so that works out quite perfectly. There is a barrier based on Wano slots, and of course you're going to have Wano slots with this team, and there is 3 turns of defense up, and this Garp on the team does allow you to remove 4 turns of defense up, and also deals with color affinity too. So your quick and side units have color affinity. You'll have Zora of course for a huge attack boost. Carrot and Wanda are kind of replaceable with whatever. You could literally just use the Sanji as the captain instead. It just depends on what you want to do, of course, just kind of using filler units. But the most important unit here is definitely Hiyori with that YT base support, as it gets around all of the despair for you and generates you a full board of those Wano slots. So now we move on to the last Battle Rush boss before we get to the final boss, and we have Aokiji, who is a Psi unit, and there is cooldown to Int, Psi, and Dex, and you see there's so many debuffs here. So you've got Special Bind, there's Special Reverse, all type slots are badly matching to the crew, there's a combo hit barrier, and if you charge your specials to deal with the Special Reverse, he then binds your captains, removes your beneficial effects. Obviously lots of bad things. However, you can deal with this very simply. If you use the friend captain of Legend Alba or V2 King, he deals with the special reverse, deals with a special bind. If you use his super type first, then his special, he gives you a full board of Wano slots, and it's just over at that point. You just don't have to deal with much else. Of course, your captain will be binded because your captain is not another Alba. If you run double Alba, it's not really that big of an issue. But in that case, you can just use the special of Capone. Capone deals with bind, or this treasure map legend Blackbeard also deals with the bind for you. And that is pretty much it. Super type of Alba, special of Alba, and then you can use someone to remove the bind, and then Kaido special, and it's GG. You just absolutely destroy this Aokiji boss. So now we get to the final boss, which is versus Sengoku, giving cooldown to Strength, Dex, and Psi characters. Now in Battle 2, there's going to be a full board of block slots, there is Special Bind, and there is also 6 turns of Rainbow Shield, which is very annoying to deal with. So in this case here, what we can do is we can use the Hody Jones, which actually removes the Special Bind for the crew. We have the Robin special, which can get rid of the Rainbow Shield and also give an attack boost to Dex characters, which is the most important thing here. And then Bon Clay, you can use him to get rid of the block slots, which is so good. And then you can also change Bon Clay to be a Dex powerhouse unit, and that's exactly what we want here, because we'll ideally be using Blackbeard as the friend captain for this team. That is very, very much required as we get to that final stage, because when you reach the final stage, there is 10 turns of despair, and of course with Blackbeard as the captain, he does change the despair to become a 1.2 chain multiplicative buff, giving further damage increase. And there's also 5 turns of threshold and 8 turns of defense. The versus effect of Blackbeard will remove 3 turns of that defense, so that's pretty nice to have. And it also gives the color affinity boost, of course, which ignores the interrupt of the boss. And then of course Blackbeard special gives you a huge orb boost and a full board of tandem slots. Now you do see that there is paralysis slots inflicted to the crew though, so the special of this Jinbei will actually, he gets rid of paralysis, so that changes the paralysis slots into matching for the crew. And then the Zora on this team is really good. He removes 5 turns of threshold, 5 turns of defense up, So the Versus effect and the Zoro special deals with the defense up, but Zoro actually just sets their defense to 0 anyway, and also gives you a conditional boost against defense down. So it just works perfectly. You're just going to have so much damage on this team, and it's relatively easy to build. Of course, Bon Clay is not super accessible, I would say, but as long as it is a captain that works with the crew, that as long as it gets rid of block slots, that's the most important thing, because you just need some type of unit to deal with block slots on stage 2. If you're able to do that, then you're going to be able to build this team and just absolutely destroy the boss. Now, you do see that he does do only 10,000 damage when you reach the last stage and stuff, which is really not that big of a deal. You can tank that in most scenarios. So yeah, this is a pretty awesome team that shouldn't really have too many issues versus Sengoku. So now we get to the final boss versus Akainu, which is the Intrusion battle boss, the one that you fight on every bonus map. And ideally with this team, you want to be using Whitebeard, the new versus Whitebeard, as the friend captain. So I'm just going to leave you guys with the rest of the clip here as we can show off the team versus the fight in general on Extra Island, and you guys can see exactly how the team performs. So there's lots of different gimmicks that are occurring here, so making sure that you do have the right supports. And of course, this is not the best team to build, of course, but this is just a team that can get it done, that's relatively accessible. Your Rogue is allowing you to deal with the special reverse on stage 2. So if you don't have him, you do want to replace it with something that can deal with special reverse for the crew. And then you can ideally use Zoro on stage 2 as well, because he gives you 3 turns of orb boost. So that will be really nice if you don't have an orb boost already. Unfortunately, your Rogue is an orb booster, so you can't really stack, you know, the specials of Zoro and your Rogue on the same turn. So that is kind of annoying, but at the end of the day, it's just a team that will be able to get the job done, which is the most important thing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys did enjoy it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
O 安いご用